The Tower of London, February 13th, 1542. Dawn is a bruise on the horizon, staining the Thames a bloody purple. The air is frigid, tasting of river rot and old stone. A young woman, no more than 19, kneels on a coarse black cloth spread over the scaffold's rough-hewn planks. Her breath plumes in the brittle air. She is dressed not in the rags of a trader, but in a stunning gown of black velvet, a final, defiant luxury granted by the man who condemned her. Her name is Catherine Howard, and she is about to die. The crowd gathered in the inner courtyard is not a mob, but a select, somber audience of officials and witnesses. Their faces are pale, etched with a grim fascination. They have come to see a queen beheaded. The only sounds are the restless cawing of ravens and the whisper of the wind through the battlements. Catherine's hands, usually adorned with rings, are clasped in prayer. Her lips move, forming silent words. Forgiveness, a prayer for her soul, or a final, desperate plea to a husband who is already planning his next hunt, his next feast, his next wife. She rises on trembling legs. She turns to the small, stoic crowd. Her voice, when it comes, is clear, a bell tolling in the stillness. "I die a queen," she declares, "but I would rather have died the wife of Culpeper." A collective, sharp intake of breath. It is not the rehearsed speech of a penitent. It is a confession, a scandal, a love letter from the grave. She places her head on the block. The world holds its breath. The axe, a heavy, brutal thing, catches the first weak light of the sun as it swings upward. For a heartbeat, it hangs suspended against the grey sky. Then, it falls. 5 years earlier, the court of Henry VIII is a different world. It is a place of gilded masks and whispered secrets, where the scent of spiced wine and expensive perfume cannot quite mask the underlying stench of fear. The king, once a golden prince of Europe, is now a mountain of a man, his leg festering with a wound that will never heal, his temper a thunderstorm that can break without warning. His third wife, Jane Seymour, is dead, having given him the precious son he craved. The court holds its breath, waiting to see who will fill the vacant space beside the throne. Into this viper's nest steps Catherine Howard. She is a fresh bloom in a hothouse of decaying flowers. Just 15, perhaps 16, she is all youthful energy and sparkling eyes. She is a Howard, niece to the powerful Duke of Norfolk, a piece to be moved on the chessboard of power. She is brought to court as a lady-in-waiting to the new queen, and of Cleves, a political match the king finds instantly repellent. He calls her the Flanders mare. The contrast is devastating. Where and is stiff and foreign, Catherine is all English rose and vivacious charm. She is a dancer, a musician, a creature of laughter and light. Henry, bloated and plagued by pain, sees in her a reflection of his own lost youth. He sees a cure. The court watches, aghast and amused, as the 50-year-old king plays the swooning suitor. He showers her with gifts, jewels, lands, extravagant gowns. He is a bear, smitten with a songbird. In the summer of 1540, the king's marriage to and of Cleves is annulled. It is declared unconsummated. Weeks later, Henry marries Catherine Howard in a private ceremony. He calls her his rose without a thorn. For a fleeting moment, it seems the fairy tale is real. The king walks with a new spring in his heavy step. The pain in his leg seems to recede. He commissions portraits of his young bride, capturing her delicate features and enigmatic smile. The court breathes a sigh of calculated relief. The Howard family preens, their influence secured. But thorns are hidden beneath the petals. Catherine's past is not the pristine slate the king believes it to be. Sent to live in the household of her step-grandmother, the Dowager Duchess of Norfolk, at Lambeth, her upbringing was one of chaotic neglect. The maiden's chamber there was less a convent and more a dormitory of giggling, unsupervised girls. And into this world came men. First, her music teacher, Henry Manox. The lessons in the quiet rooms of Lambeth House strayed far from the virginal. Then, a dashing young secretary named Francis Derham. Their affair was an open secret among the household, a reckless, youthful passion filled with stolen kisses in dark corners and the frantic, fumbling exploration of bodies. He called her his wife, and she called him her husband, words that would later haunt her, binding them in the eyes of the church with a precontract, a form of marriage in itself. This was not the past of a queen. It was a powder keg, and at court, the flame was already lit. The king, for all his devotion, was still a sick, aging man. His young wife, vibrant and full of life, found her attention wandering. It found a target in Thomas Culpeper, a handsome, favoured member of the king's privy chamber. He was everything Henry was not: young, gallant, and whole. The attraction was immediate, magnetic, and catastrophically foolish. Their meetings began in secret, whispers in crowded galleries, letters passed by trusted servants. Catherine's loyal lady-in-waiting, Jane Boleyn, Lady Rochford, the widow of George Boleyn who had died alongside his sister Anne, became their chief accomplice. Was she a hopeless romantic, facilitating a tragic love story? Or was she a creature so twisted by the trauma of the Boleyn downfall that she was drawn, moth-like, to the same flame? She arranged their trysts, she stood watch, she became the architect of their doom. The affair played out in the shadow of the throne itself. While the king snored, his leg propped on cushions, his wife would slip from her bedchamber. The Royal Progress of 1541, a grand tour of the north designed to showcase the king's power and his new queen, became a cover for their illicit romance. In quiet manor houses and cramped castle chambers, while the court slept off the day's feasting, Catherine and Culpeper would meet. The air in those rooms was thick with the smell of rushes on the floor, the smoke from a single candle, and the sharp, metallic tang of terror. Every creak of a floorboard was a potential death knell. Every footstep in the corridor outside sent their hearts hammering against their ribs. One of Catherine's letters to Culpeper survives, a fragile, damning relic. "It makes my heart die to think I cannot be always in your company," she writes. The words are those of a love-struck girl, but they are also the words of a traitor. For a queen to think such thoughts was dangerous. To write them down was suicidal. She signs it, "Yours as long as life endures." She had no idea how short that duration would be. The end began not with a shout, but with a whisper. It was a confession, torn from a man named John Lascelles, who had a grudge against the Howard family and a fervent belief in the new Protestant faith. He came to the Archbishop of Canterbury, Thomas Cranmer, with a story learned from his sister, Mary Hall, who had once served in the Lambeth household. The story of a young girl named Catherine Howard and her indiscretions with Francis Derham. Cranmer, a cautious and political man, was faced with a dilemma. To bring such a charge against the Queen was to risk everything. If the king, in his infatuation, refused to believe it, the messenger would be the one to lose his head. So, Cranmer did not speak aloud. During Mass at the Chapel Royal, he slipped a folded note into the king's own hand. A piece of paper, passed like a secret between plotters, that contained the seeds of a queen's destruction. Henry's initial reaction was disbelief, then a cold, simmering rage. He refused to believe it. He ordered an immediate, but quiet, investigation. "Let it be secret," he commanded. The gilded cage of the court, which had been Catherine's playground, suddenly felt like a prison. The air grew thick with unspoken questions. Courtiers who had bowed so deeply now averted their eyes. The king's warmth turned to a glacial silence. Catherine, sensing the shift, grew pale and quiet. The laughter that had once charmed a king was now strangled in her throat. The investigation was swift and merciless. The past was dragged, kicking and screaming, into the present. Henry Manox was found and interrogated. He confessed to the familiarity at Lambeth, his testimony a sordid, detailed map of Catherine's lost innocence. Then, Francis Derham was arrested. Under the threat of torture, he admitted to the affair, but he was cunning. He claimed that after their youthful passion, he had been supplanted by another. He pointed a desperate finger directly at Thomas Culpeper. He claimed Catherine had taken Culpeper as her lover at court. The noose was tightening. Culpeper was seized. Denials were useless in the face of the evidence and in the shadow of the rack. He broke, admitting to the meetings, the secret arrangements, the stolen moments. He gave up Lady Rochford. He gave up everything, hoping for mercy, finding none. The king's men descended upon Catherine's chambers, removing her ladies, her jewels, her very connection to the world. She was placed under house arrest at Hampton Court, the very palace where she had been celebrated as queen. Then, the dam broke completely. The king's investigators found Catherine's letter to Culpeper. It makes my heart die to think I cannot be always in your company. The words, written in her own hand, were a signed confession. They were her death warrant. What followed was a scene of pure, unvarnished terror. The king and queen were at Hampton Court, preparing for a grand feast. Henry, in a black fury, ordered his guards to lock Catherine in her rooms. He then left the palace, abandoning her without a word. That night, Catherine could bear the silence no longer. She knew the layout of the palace, the route the king took to the chapel. As he walked to mass, she broke free from her guards. She ran, her slippers slapping against the cold stone floors, her screams echoing through the long galleries. She reached the chapel door, a frantic, disheveled figure. She pounded on the heavy wood, her cries piercing the solemn chant of the priests. "Let me speak to the king. I beg you. Mercy." The chanting inside did not stop. The door remained shut. The guards, their faces like stone, seized her. Her desperate, clawing hands left marks on the polished wood. They dragged her, sobbing and screaming, back to her prison. The king, inside, gave no sign that he had even heard. The door to his heart, and to his mercy, was now permanently and fatally closed. The aftermath was a bloody harvest. Thomas Culpeper and Francis Derham were tried and condemned for treason. Culpeper, once a favourite, was beheaded. Derham suffered the full, gruesome penalty reserved for traitors. He was hanged, drawn, and quartered. Their heads were placed on spikes atop London Bridge, a grim warning to all who would dare to cuckold a king. Lady Rochford, imprisoned in the Tower, succumbed to the terror. Her mind, already fragile from the trauma of the Boleyn executions, shattered completely. She was said to have gone mad, raving in her cell about ghosts and betrayals. And Catherine. She was stripped of her title as queen. Parliament passed a bill of attainder against her, declaring her a traitor. She was taken by barge up the Thames to the Tower of London. It was the same journey her cousin, Anne Boleyn, had taken just 5 years earlier. As a boat passed under London Bridge, she would have seen the rotting heads of Culpeper and Derham staring sightlessly down at her, the final, grotesque confirmation of her fate. She was held in the same rooms and had occupied. The world outside moved on. The king planned his next marriage to Catherine Parr. The court, having witnessed the spectacle, learned the lesson. In the court of Henry VIII, love was the deadliest sin of all. The days in the Tower bled into one another, a grey, featureless expanse of dread. For Catherine, the world had shrunk to the cold stone of her chamber, the thin light from a single barred window, and the sound of her own heartbeat, a frantic drum counting down the hours. She was allowed few visitors, only a stern matron and a priest who spoke of repentance and the salvation of her immortal soul. The vibrant girl who had danced in the great hall was gone, replaced by a hollow-eyed woman waiting for the axe to fall. But the execution did not come. Not for weeks. The delay was a peculiar form of torture. Rumours, smuggled in with her meagre meals, suggested the king was hesitating. Perhaps his old affection for her had stirred. Perhaps he was considering a pardon, exile to a nunnery, anything but the public spectacle of a queen's blood on the scaffold. For a fleeting moment, a desperate, wild hope flickered within her. It was a lie. The delay was bureaucratic, political. Parliament was finalising the Bill of Attainder. Henry was ensuring the legal groundwork was so solid that no one could question his justice. He was also having a special law passed, a unique and chilling piece of legislation that made it treason for an unchaste woman to marry the king. He was not just condemning Catherine, he was rewriting the law to justify it. The hope she had clung to was a phantom. a cruel joke played by a state machinery grinding slowly towards her death. Then, the final blow landed. They came for Lady Rochford. Her madness had been deemed an insufficient shield. The law required her to answer for her treason. She was to die alongside her queen. The reality of it, the shared fate with the woman who had facilitated her ruin, must have extinguished the last ember of Catherine's spirit. There would be no reprieve. The night of February 12th, 1542, was the longest of her life. She asked for the block to be brought to her cell. She wanted to practice. In the flickering candlelight, she knelt, placed her neck upon the rough wood, and rehearsed her own death. The sound of the straw stuffing the executioner's axe, a muffled thud against the floor, was the only sound in the silence. She was ensuring she would not flinch, that she would make a good end. It was an act of profound courage and of utter despair. Dawn arrived, cold and indifferent. She was dressed in a black velvet gown, a final, stark elegance. She was led from her chamber, through the inner ward of the tower. The scaffold, draped in black, stood waiting. The crowd was not large, but their eyes were heavy upon her. She climbed the steps, her legs weak, the cold air biting at her lungs. She saw the block. She saw the masked executioner, his axe leaning against the rail. And she saw Lady Rochford, a broken, mumbling wreck, being half-dragged to the scaffold. Catherine, with a strength that seemed to come from somewhere beyond her, composed herself. She spoke her final words. Her admission that she would rather have died the wife of Culpeper was not in the official records, but it persists in contemporary accounts, a whisper of scandal that refused to be silenced. It was the truth, finally spoken aloud at the edge of oblivion. She turned to the priest, her confessor. She prayed. Then she knelt. She did not need the block this time. She positioned herself perfectly. Her eyes were blindfolded. The world went dark. The last thing she felt was the coarse grain of the wood against her cheek. The last thing she heard was the rustle of the executioner shifting his weight, the soft sigh of the axe as it was lifted high. Then, nothing. The fall of the axe was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of a ghost. Catherine Howard's death sent a seismic shock through England, but one that was quickly suppressed. The king married Catherine par a year and a half later. The court, ever adaptable, learned to speak of the young queen as a tragic, wayward girl, a lesson in the perils of immoral conduct. But the lesson was deeper and darker than mere morality. Henry VIII was now a king utterly untethered from restraint. He had killed 2 of his wives. He had decimated the ancient nobility, elevated new men, and subjugated the church to his will. The execution of Catherine Howard proved, beyond any doubt, that his will was law, his paranoia was justice, and his heart was a slaughterhouse. The Tudor monarchy became a thing of absolute, terrifying power. The man who had once been the hope of the Renaissance was now a tyrant, rotting from the inside out, both in body and in soul. And what of Catherine? History has often been unkind, painting her as a foolish, promiscuous girl who paid the price for her stupidity. But the debate endures. Was she a wanton adulteress who recklessly betrayed a king? Or was she a victim, a pawn in the political games of her family, used and then discarded when she became a liability? Was her affair with Culpeper a grand, tragic love story, or the desperate act of a young woman trapped in a marriage to a sick and frightening old man, seeking solace where she could find it? There is evidence for all of it. Her past at Lambeth suggests a lack of guidance, a childhood where her virtue was not protected but exploited. Her actions at court show a breathtaking lack of political sense, a failure to understand the deadly game she was in. Her final, whispered desire for Culpeper speaks of a genuine, if foolish, heart. She was, perhaps, all these things at once, a victim and an agent of her own destruction, a sinner and a sacrifice. The stones of the Tower of London are said to hold memories. Visitors to the haunted gallery at Hampton Court swear they have heard the phantom screams of a woman, the desperate pounding on a locked door. They say a ghost in a grey dress. Some say it is Catherine, others, and Boleyn, is seen running through the corridors, forever trying to reach a king who will never listen. It is a story that endures because it is more than a ghost story. It is the echo of a final, terrifying truth from a reign drenched in blood. In the court of Henry VIII, it was not the axe that was the most fearsome weapon.